Trust is one of those tricky topics where it's a combination of a lot of really big, important parts of ourselves and our lives. Potential traumas that might have happened in the past, different interactions that frame the way that we see the world. There are so many things that contribute to our capacity or incapacity for trust, not only of others, but of ourselves, of other external events, and of just life in general. And it's only natural to take these accumulated experiences and to try to make sense of it all, and to see that when we are going out and doing something in the world, that when we find ourselves at one of those times where we're in an interaction with someone or some event or some situation where those negative thoughts, those patterns that we've developed over our lives kick into action, and we can almost feel the effects of them if we're conscious enough of them, if we've considered it enough. Then when we realize that situation, I think it's really important to acknowledge it, to assign a label to it, to give it the respect that it deserves, because it is a pretty big, impactful component of the framing that we give to the world. So if we choose to kind of disrespect it, to push it to the side, then that's only going to fester and boil even further. So I think recognizing it, acknowledging it for what it is, and giving it its due then allows us to properly process and potentially resolve those potential patterns or negative thought spirals that we could get ourselves into. But how does this look in the real world? Let's say uni's just started back up. We go and we make a bunch of friends in one of our classes with a few people, and we might have these thoughts and these feelings of, oh, I really want to hang out with these people. I want to make a connection to them. And so we hang out a couple of times and it's great. We're having fun. It's a good experience overall. And then there might be this pernicious thought that starts to occur in the back of our minds of maybe jealousy, or maybe not trusting that they actually want to be friends with us, or any number of these negative thought spirals that can really start to brew and develop the more that we chew on it, the more that we sit in it. And so what I would say, what I have done when I found myself experiencing those kinds of thoughts, is to write a journal entry about this. We could make a video about it. We could even talk to someone that is genuinely really close to us, be it a parent, a best friend, our dog. No. Either way, as long as we're talking to someone that is almost past this trust threshold, then that will help us to be able to gain an extra perspective, an extra data point that is outside of our own currently biased view. But alongside all of this, there is one very important lesson learning that I've come across that I would say is almost the most important thing to remember in this kind of area. And that is, even if, let's say, someone was to betray us, betray our trust, or they were to do something intentionally malicious towards us, let's say that is to happen, we should still give them the benefit of the doubt. We should still trust them, because even if that was to happen, we shouldn't be waiting on the factor on whether or not they're going to break our trust. We simply need to trust ourselves enough that even if that was to happen, that we would be okay. And this leads into a broader idea of trusting that life is going to work out if we put in our genuine effort into whatever it is that we're doing in our day-to-day lives. In another way, it's almost like believing in the inertia of our existence. I have a friend, I love that quote from him more than anything else. And I would say that this idea of knowing that things will be okay in a long enough time frame, in a long enough time period, that regardless of whether something in the moment is happening that is bad, whether something great is happening in the moment, we can never really know the consequences of each individual action in a relatively short time frame. But as long as we resolve ourselves to this higher order thought process in the long term, that things will be okay, things will work out, things will find their way to the actions, activities, events that we want to have on a long enough time frame is the most important part of this sentence. And for me, that's allowed me to be a little bit more relaxed and calmer about when potentially negative things are happening in my world in a zoomed in version of what life actually is. And this reminds me of another quote that I happen to love that I'm unfortunately going to butcher, but to paraphrase it, it's in the short-term perspective, life is a tragedy. In the long-term perspective, life is a comedy. So it gives us a capacity for day-to-day calmness that I don't think is easily accessible otherwise. It gives us a chance to realize the finitude, the potential insignificance of any singular event or any singular series of events, to realize that regardless of what happens, we'll be okay, that things will work out, but we just might have to wait a little bit longer for them. We might just have to still be clocking in, clocking out, of putting in the hours to whatever it is that we're doing, to potentially waiting until we find this really good friendship group that we've been waiting for. And by waiting, I want to clarify that it's almost an active waiting. We are doing our tasks, doing our things, living our lives the best that we can, rather than kind of passively existing. And that is the same mindset that we need to have across all of these other areas of our lives. I think to be passive is to restrict ourselves of the potential things that we might be able to do in the future, but to be waiting for something doesn't necessarily mean that we have to be passively waiting. I'll make some videos in the future to clarify the distinction a little bit further. I think for today, unfortunately, I've rambled a little bit too much. So, to leave you with the one major takeaway from this video, how to trust others and ourselves, is to simply ground our ability to be vulnerable in something deeper than an external relation. So that even if that external relation, to be it a person, an event, a position, whatever it may be, we are still going to be fine, regardless. Even in the moment, it might be shit, it might feel really bad. I understand that. We all go through that. There are things that make us feel like death. But when we consider what is the best methodology to move forward with different events that happen in our lives, I would say that taking this longer term perspective, this longer term approach to seeing that things happen, almost an amor fati, appreciation for everything that happens in our lives, because that leads us towards the next things that might happen. And the next things that might happen might be even better than what we had previously. If we don't achieve the object of our desires in the moment, then great, that's a lesson. It's setting me up for something better in the future. That is the sentence I want you to take away from this video. That is the sentence I want to repeat to myself from this video. So, again, I hope you really enjoyed the kind of concepts that I went through today. I know it's a bit left, right, and center, but that's what happens when you have a bit of a break in between making videos. So, again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.